In the West, the name Persia evokes ancient majesty, a civilization of powerful kings and a bridge between East and West that vanished into the sands of time. Meanwhile, the name Iran hints at modern geopolitical complexity, religious divisions, and revolution. Yet these two names refer to the exact same geography and the same people. However, this linguistic duality is not accidental. It is the result of a 2,500-year misunderstanding between the East and the West. While the Greeks and Romans called this land Persia, the people living within it have called it Iran, which means the land of the Aryans. However, the shift from the ancient empire to modern Iran was not peaceful, but violent. From Achaemenid dominance to Mongol devastation, this is how Persia became today's Iran. Around 550 BC, this region was just a network of small tribes, until this man, Cyrus the Great, united all of them and formed the Achaemenid Empire, which gradually became a superpower that would stretch from the Indus Valley in India to all the way to the Balkans in Greece. At its peak, this empire controlled approximately 44% of the world's population. No empire before or since has held such a high percentage of humanity under a single rule. According to historical records, they possessed infrastructure unmatched for centuries. For example, a royal road that allowed messages to travel thousands of miles in days, along with a standardized currency, and the Immortals, an elite fighting force that was infinite in number, also invincible. However, a linguistic shift from Aryan to Persia occurred when the Greeks were encountering Cyrus's forces. They realized that these kings came from the province of Pars. As a result, the Greeks applied the name of the province to the entire empire and started calling it Persis or Persia. Meanwhile, by 330 BC, the Achaemenid Empire had weakened militarily, relying on old tactics. This allowed Alexander the Great to defeat the Achaemenid forces with a 10 times smaller but brutally trained Macedonian army. He burned the capital, Persepolis, to the ground. The political system of Persia was destroyed, but the cultural idea of Iran went quiet, waiting to be revived. Following the Greek rule, which began in 330 BC, a new power rose by 224 AD, the Sassanid Empire. If the Achaemenids built the body of Persia, the Sassanids built its identity. Sassanid kings understood that to compete with the Roman Empire in the West, they needed a strong, shared national identity. In official inscriptions and texts, the empire was called Eranshahr, meaning Empire of the Iranians, and clearly distinguished from Aniran, meaning from the non-Iranian lands. For nearly 4 centuries, Eranshahr stood as an equal to Rome. Yet by the early 7th century, long wars with the Byzantine Empire weakened the Sassanid borders, and as a result, they failed to notice the new threat rising from the Arabian deserts. In 651 AD, the powerful Sassanid Empire collapsed under the Arab Muslim conquests, marking the most critical turning point in Iranian history. Unlike other regions such as Egypt or Syria, where the local people eventually adopted the Arabic language and identity, Iran stood apart. Although the Persians gradually converted to Islam, they firmly refused to become Arab. What followed was a strange era known as the 2 Centuries of Silence, where Persians lost their ability to rule themselves. However, there was a twist. The Persian government system was so advanced that the Arab rulers had no choice but to hire Persians to run their empire. As a result, this administrative leverage allowed the Persian language to survive, even though it began using the Arabic script. Ultimately, this cultural resistance reached its peak around 1010 AD when the poet Ferdowsi finished the Shahnameh, or the Book of Kings. This massive epic cemented the Persian language and history as something entirely separate from Arabic tradition. By capturing the myths of ancient Iran, Ferdowsi ensured that the Iranian identity remained unbreakable, even as the religion changed. In 1219, Genghis Khan and the Mongol armies invaded Iran, bringing destruction on a scale that cultural resilience alone could not prevent. As the Mongols swept across the Iranian plateau, they destroyed large parts of the population, dismantled ancient water systems known as qanats, and turned fertile land into desert. As a result, entire cities, including Nishapur, were erased from the map. The destruction was so deep that Iran's population did not recover to pre-Mongol levels until the mid-20th century. Yet, once again, history repeated itself. Over time, in order to rule such a complex society, the Mongols adopted Persian language, customs, and administrative practices. In this way, the conquerors were ultimately absorbed by the culture they had conquered. The political unity of the Mongols eventually fell apart, breaking the plateau into a power vacuum. For 2 centuries, the region fell into tribal chaos, and by 1500, Iran was no longer an empire, but a broken land of rival local rulers. This chaos finally ended with the rise of a teenager named Shah Ismail I, the founder of the Safavid dynasty in 1501. The Safavid era is crucial for 2 major reasons. First, Ismail forcefully defeated rival tribes to rebuild a unified state with borders close to those of modern Iran. Second, he made a geopolitical decision that continues to shape the Middle East today. This decision was not religious at first, but strategic in nature. To protect this newly unified state, the Safavids, surrounded by the Sunni Ottoman Empire to the west and Sunni Uzbeks to the north, converted Iran to Shia Islam by force. This deliberate move created a clear national and religious identity that could not be absorbed by the Ottomans. While this decision isolated Iran from its neighbors, it strengthened the unity of the state. Ultimately, Iran once again became a superpower, with its capital, Isfahan, emerging as a global center of art and diplomacy. By the 19th century, under the Qajar dynasty, Iran had begun to fall behind. While Europe was being transformed by the Industrial Revolution, Persia remained largely agrarian, shaped by agriculture and local authority rather than modern industry or institutions. As a result, the country became a buffer state in the Great Game, the strategic rivalry between the British Empire and Tsarist Russia. Caught between these powers, the Qajar kings, weak and deeply indebted, were pressured into signing unequal treaties, surrendering vast territories in the Caucasus and Central Asia. Consequently, to the outside world, Persia appeared stuck in the past, rather than a modern sovereign state. In 1921, a military officer named Reza Khan staged a coup, later crowning himself Reza Shah Pahlavi in 1925. His goal was rapid, enforced modernization to reduce foreign influence. Reza Shah saw the name Persia as a relic of the weak Qajar era and a colonial term imposed by the Greeks and British. He wanted a name that reflected the country's long history and ethnic diversity, not just the province of Fars. On March 21st, 1935, during the holiday of Persian New Year, the government issued a diplomatic decree asking all foreign nations to stop using Persia and use the country's native name, Iran. This was an assertion of sovereignty, a statement that the nation was not an exotic curiosity of the East, but a modern state equal to those in Europe. While Winston Churchill and the British initially resisted the change, fearing confusion with neighboring Iraq, the name Iran eventually became established. Finally, in 1979, the Pahlavi dynasty fell in a massive revolution, giving rise to the current Islamic Republic. Yet despite this radical change in government, the name and borders of the country remained completely untouched. The transition from Persia to Iran was never about replacing one people with another. It was the result of a 2,500-year struggle to preserve a distinct identity at the crossroads of some of the world's most violent geography. From the administrative genius of the Achaemenids to the cultural resilience against the Mongols and the political maneuvering of the 20th century, the entity known as Iran endured. Persia may be the name of a fallen empire, but Iran is the name of the nation that survived to tell its story.